Hey everybody, this is John at aMTBer Products. I wanted to talk about a couple of things about the product and the development of the product. I have been very hesitant to publish several videos I've recorded because it opens a lot of doors to trolling, and I want to say that most people who look on ChainLube videos can see that there's people in comment sections pushing certain products. Now, I want to show you something I got here in the mail today by a guy named John P. And he just says, zero friction cycling test. And I'm familiar with that channel. And, you know, there's a guy who's got 1,000-mile on a single application test that he does. From what I understand, I saw his channel about 3 years ago. And, you know, he does it on a road bike on a trainer, and that's not what we do on mountain bikes. So when I saw this channel 3 years ago, I realized right away, first of all, my product had already been out for about 4 years. And second, I started developing it in 2015. So I'm 10 years into this now. These channels are come onto the scene after a lot of products have come onto the scene after 2020. When I already had 5 years of development and already had come to market in 2019 with my product. So all of these stuff that's out right now is after the fact, and that might already been established and does what it does. And so here's this guy's letter, and I want to point out some things. This is what I have to deal with all the time. Hello, I recently learned about your website and ChainLube. Right there, I'm already got big red flags going right away. You recently learned about my website and the ChainLube. Not that he learned about my ChainLube, but he learned about my website and the ChainLube. Strange. And I'll be suggesting to Adam at Zero Friction Cycling that he test your smooth lube. So this person has taken it upon himself to do this with my product that I've got 10 years in development and 7 years or 8 years now selling it. I wonder if you've tried this or considering asking your customers to reach out for this. To reach out for what? To have somebody do some arbitrary test? First of all, who designed this test and what is their cycling background? How many years have they been racing? How many years have they been riding, and what kind of disciplines do they do? I wonder if you've tried this or considered asking your customers to reach out for this. Why would I ask my customers to reach out for this? To have some not unbiased, this Zero Friction is the name of the YouTube channel, and they do some test. I don't know who designed it, but they also sell 2 or 3 or 4 different brands products on there, so they're not unbiased. So they have an incentive to promote the products that they sell. And the other thing is that I have no interest in having some random YouTuber be a salesman for my product. I have no interest at all. Again, what's his cycling background? That's the question. Let's see, or maybe, let's see, I wonder if you've tried this or considered asking your customers to reach out for this. So strange. This first 2 paragraphs is just very, very strange. Or maybe posting an invitation for ZFC, Zero Friction Cycling, to do this on your home page. He wants me to post an invitation for them to put something on my website? This is insanity. This is probably an AI produced letter, because it's just nobody is this stupid. I've not yet used your product. So, you know, up here, I recently learned about your website. Like I told you, big red flag. You've learned about my website and ChainLube. not you learned about my chain lube, and I went to your website. It's like backwards of what a normal letter would read. I have not yet used your product, but you're concerned about me doing all these things for my customers to reach out for this. This has got to be an AI generated letter. It's so ridiculous. I'm trying to get through the third paragraph here. I'm not yet used your product, but it just makes me laugh. But the prospect that it's an affordable and thereby more approachable alternative to very expensive wax products is compelling. But you've never tried it. Okay. I'm thinking that with some test data to show the quality of your product, you could potentially stand to absorb a massive share. This is just comedy of the recreational rider like myself and my family market, who would absorb a massive share of the recreational market, who would prefer a clean running and simple chain lube that helps extend life of consumable parts. Blessings, John S. Payne. Well, you know, I gotta say, this is the strangest letter I've got all day, maybe all year. But this has got red flags all over it, and so I wanted to point out that. Now, hold on, I'll just pause. So when you go to the Old Guy in the Bikes channel here, and you see this video that came out this week, 4 days ago, you'll see what I'm talking about. His video says, the best wax chain lube you've have never heard of. I think that's a great title.
This at the end. You go watch it. And like I said, I've been using this for 6 years now, and I have found it to be excellent. I use the 5311.
So you see, you know, this is a person's used it for 6 years, and I've been using it for almost 10 years now. I still haven't found anything better, and I've made a lot of improvements along the way. Started out very simple. I have a video. I've tried to publish it, but I'm really reserved on publishing it. But one thing I wanted to point out is you'll always see people with comments about other products. I'm going to not say it here, but you know, and then you got people here. I'm trying it right now. Clean the chain, put some on, rode this morning with it definitely smooth. That's awesome. So, but the thing is that you're always going to get people in the comments all reverting back to a handful of companies that I believe are, you know, part of the zero friction cycling program. And then here's like one the Loam Wolf did, really great review he did for me. This was a big surprise when it came out. I was busy working on something, and I got the phones were ringing, and I'm like, what happened? I had no idea this even had happened. But yeah, this is the video. It says, this may be the best mountain bike chain lube
that you like better than this at the moment?
we've used. This is maybe the best mountain bike chain lube we've used, buttery smooth.
No.
Okay,
No.
so you think I might have just given you your new favorite lube?
You might have given me my new favorite lube.
All right, everybody.
So this was a great review and very unbiased. I mean, I wrote the guy an email one day, and he responded. He noticed my phone number was an 818 area code, and I said, yeah, I can meet you for a ride. So I met him at the trailhead, and I set his bike up and gave him a bunch of bottles, and a couple years later, it's almost 2 years later, he did this review. But you can see here, you know, right off the bat, we need the full test with zero friction cycling now. And then, I don't know. It says, then here we go, like a person responding to their own. So they throw this out, then they'll have a response, and it's just like this back and forth thing. I have a feeling that a mountain biker won't send anything to ZFC. Well, their test is 1,000 miles on one application. I've never claimed mine can do that. Imagine if the product is actually great for lubrication, but awful for any contamination. Well, you use the word there, imagine. So You can imagine that all you want, but I've been riding for 45 years, and I developed it to meet my criteria first. I made it for me first. I used it for a couple of years before I ever even considered bringing it to market. So, you know, I had it in 2015, 16, 17, 18 is when I decided to bring it to market. And I did the Sea Otter show in spring of 2019. So, you know, you see this trolling that's like, we need the full zero for, like, they're the pen, like they, like there's some credibility there because this test is what? Like, who designed the test and what is the cycling background? Have no idea. 17 likes on a comment. And then you have a response like this. I have a feeling. So he has a feeling that I won't send anything. Well, first of all, I know they do it on a road bike, indoors, on a trainer. That's not the real world. My product may last a long time in that situation. I don't know, and I'm not going to spend any time or money to find out. Not by somebody that's selling other products. It would have to be a total unbiased third party that has no incentive, not even making money on YouTube channel. They have to be a third party that doesn't make any money other than to perform a test to get their data, and then you can compare that data to other data. But you know, I'm not going to spend any time or money on a test that I don't even know who designed it, or I believe they're biased towards the products they sell. But the point is that this trolling is something I see in comment sections all over. Anywhere you're looking at a chain lube video, there'll be these comments that appear. Hey everybody, I wanted to... All right, so I don't know where I left off. The recording button did start, but this is a video I did about the product line, and I'm reluctant to release it because I talk about too many things that explain how I developed it a little too much for the, you know, I don't want certain people to hear that, to get them thinking the way I was thinking, because this was very, very thinking outside the box, like extremely thinking outside the box. And, you know, this was part of the journey, was starting with the one, solve problem number one, but I was still dipping my chains until I realized, boy, I can just put this stuff here, the white stuff here. I can put this stuff on 10 times, and I don't need to redip my chain. And I can get through a 50-mile training ride in the hills, no problem. Now, from there, I wanted to eliminate the crockpot entirely. That's when I started working on that, the original Lube sliding in the black and white bottle. And then simultaneously, I realized, you know, I think I'm going to add some, I'm going to develop it in two ways at the same time. So I really like this one, which also turned, some of the iterations turned into the guitar string wax, but the 1.2 sort of turned into the homeowner version of it as well. It sort of led itself to there. I took out some of the high torque stuff that wasn't necessary, but and used a little different wax blend, because for homeowners you don't need quite the stress of a mountain bike chain requires. It doesn't go through the same kind of things, like your doorknob and your hinges and things around the house, and your sliding windows and patio doors and tracks and stuff like that. But so this stays really clean, this stays really clean, and the way this one works with the dust, the original Lube sliding, it does something totally different than anything else in my line. I developed the original Lube sliding for my downhill bike to go to Snow Summit, particularly because at the bottom of the trail it was 5 inches of fluffy dust. I mean, it was bad those years back then. And my bike would sound horrible after 3 or 4 laps. And I'd have to go to the hose and blast the chain clean, and and it wasn't good for the bike, and I don't do that anymore because I don't need to. So this solved the problem. This repelled the dust so well, it never made a sound ever again, ever. But, you know, I was using it on my local trails and it was good, but I wanted it to be just a little quieter, So the 1.2 started to work on that problem. I like this for my bike park, so I left it alone. I left the original lube and sliding alone for my downhill bike and my dirt jumper for that matter too. It's just, that's a whole nother story, but the Smooth Lube 1.2 was the first attempt to solve the quiet wax drivetrain problem, like to make it totally silent like other lubes do. And so I may publish this video at some time or try to do it again where I can omit a few things, or maybe I can even edit it out. But the thing is that the thinking I was doing at the time to come up with this stuff was thinking way outside the box. Way outside the box of what it takes to build a lubrication product. It was thinking more along the lines of, like, you know, everything from shampoo and conditioner. See, I don't even want to talk about that. I was thinking about, like, how do I make this stuff liquid at room temperature? And so I was looking into chemistry from all kinds of different products that are pretty much everyday household products. I was looking into the chemistry behind that, how they achieve it, what I could figure out. And there's some things from other industries I'm just not willing to talk about, things I have extensive knowledge in. And this is how this was developed, combining the technologies of probably 4 or 5 different industry products. And I thought, you know, I think I can use this method to come up with a chain lube. It's going to be a little different, but if it works, it might just solve all the problems. And I think it has, and I think the people that have been doing the long-term use of my product also agree. So you can see here that we're talking about 10 years of me refining this product now, before anybody else. There was the stuff that was around back then that, you know, we all know it didn't work very good, and your chain didn't last very long either. My stuff here, my chain lasts thousands and thousands and thousands of miles. Where it used to only last hundreds. So like I said, I've got about 10 years of working with this now and developing this, refining it. Lube and Schleiden Original has gone through 2 slight changes since original release. Formula 1.2 has, it's actually on the big bulk containers, I have it labeled 1.3. I do have some original 1.2 laying around, so I've labeled the new stuff. It's got a few tweaks to it. There's about 3 adjustments that were made to that as well since 2019. So it's on its 3rd or 4th. I just keep it labeled 1.2 for marketing reasons, but it's had a couple of upgrades. And then 5311, which I don't have a picture here, has a couple of upgrades as well through the development of it. So once it was released, there was one upgrade that happened after it came on the market for sale. And so it's been the final version now since 2021, since January of 2021, hasn't changed. And then from there, the Darkmatter came out slightly after that, and that hasn't changed at all. That has not changed at all. I tried to make it a little more user-friendly and make it a little less, change the viscosity, make it a little more fluid. The trick is when you go up the line in the products here, let me see if I can find a better shot. So as you go up the line here, oops, I didn't mean to do that. As you go up the line here, the thicker it gets. So the Darkmatter is pretty thick. The Uber Clear, which is this one here, I've refined that one. It's not as thick as it was in the original batches. I want to keep it liquid at room temperature. I want it to do a little better in freezing weather as well. But these ones here need to be kept warm. Keeping it warm helps it flow, And you know, if you get down into like 50 degrees, it might be a little hard to get out of the bottle. Shake it up. That helps reactivate the alcohol in there, helps get that moving, and it helps flow, but also keeping it warm. Okay, and that's something about all of them. Not too warm, but you know, anything up to about 100 degrees is pretty good. So, you know, between good application temperatures are between about 65 and I'd say 95 degrees. Those are good temperatures to apply the product. So like your body temperature is a good place to think about. I've kept it in my pocket before to get it warmed up while I get the bike ready in other ways, pumping the tires and fixing the stanchions and whatnot, checking the cables. And I've warmed it up in my pocket for 15 minutes, and that works too.
So the thing about my product and what makes it different is I find it hard to explain it in few words, okay? But what it is everything else that's out there is basically a lubricant. So it's something you put between the metal and it does its job, and then you remove it and you put more back in, and this process goes on and on and on. So what my product is more of a chain treatment. That's more of a better description of it. What it does is it lubricates the chain, but it also becomes part of the chain. So you don't ever have to strip it again. That was basically goal number one, was to never have to do that again. And stay clean and quiet and have an awesome ride the whole length of your ride, however long it is. You know, I can do up to about 7 hours of testing. I did that many days. 7 hours on the bike. Whether that resulted in 100 miles or 50 miles depended on what I was doing. If I was doing a mountain bike uphill in the dirt, it was, you know, less miles. But on a road bike, I can do 100 miles in less than 7 hours. And so that's what I did. I developed it for my needs. So as a result, the testing that I came up with for my product is completely different than what I understand other testing is. I've seen like the muck off test. They have a test on a bench with I'm pretty sure it was muck off, with a machine with a chain, and they run it for X amount of hours and stuff like that. And then I've seen Zero Friction, where he describes what he does as putting it on his training bike, I believe, and simulates 1,000 miles of different conditions by throwing dirt on the chain and stuff. Well, on a mountain bike, you're getting dirt thrown on the chain the entire time. So right there, that's different. I mean, if something passes his test, there's a huge variable about how much dirt is applied to the chain, and there's lots of variables there. Where if you ride the same trail 100 times in the same conditions, like say summer, it's very consistent. The same amount of dust is getting thrown on the chain from the front tire to the chain ring every ride. And when the weather changes, you get stream crossings, and you get to test those conditions. So, this is what happened to develop it. This is what I did. Now, on Strava, I logged all those rides. I have 35,000 miles of Strava rides, all using the Chain Lube product. And in the beginning, it was a crock pot with the smooth lube, and we've gone over that. But it's 35,000 miles under my 2 feet to develop the product. At the time I did Sea Otter, I was at about, I think about 15,000 miles under my 2 feet at that point. So it was about 3 straight years of using the product on the chain. Now that's when I was averaging about 5,000 to 6,000 miles a year. across all the bikes. So I would log every ride, but it would be different bikes and, you know, road bikes and certain mountain bikes. And then there was downhill bikes too. But my testing was real world testing. I'm talking dust being thrown on the chain the entire time was the main reason for developing the product. That is why the Leubenschleiden line got started, to make a product that will withstand my trail rides. And like I said, the original formula, the original LS1, okay, was its SKU number is. This is Leubenschleiden, the original formula. This was doing a great job at that. But I knew it wasn't enough for my road bikes to completely eliminate the chain waxing. It was working, but I wasn't confident enough on a 100-mile ride yet. Not on the first formulas. Like I said, I'm on about the third iteration of this formula now, which holds up extremely well. I've done 70-mile cross-country rides with it in those dusty conditions, and it holds up the whole ride. So, you know, I think it's going to be more than enough for most people, and at a $12.99 price point, yeah, I don't think you can beat it. I mean, I know there's stuff a little cheaper out there, but this eliminates you ever having to clean your chain again for $12.99 a bottle. That's the current prices. That's 2019 prices. I haven't raised my prices really at all. I maybe raised one of them $1 because of I had to resupply the ingredients for that product, and they're more expensive now. But I'm still at 2019 prices right now. I'm holding there for as long as I can. But back to the zero friction thing. So their test is really just apples and oranges when it comes to a mountain bike chain lube and what I went through to develop it. I did not develop a lube to pass a 1,000-mile one application test. That would be something totally different. Would the product give you amazing shifting? I don't know. Would the product be something that you never have to clean your bike again? I don't know. Did I set out to create a chain lube that could do 1,000 miles in one application? The answer is no. And the reason is because no one rides 1,000 miles on one application. No one does. Not a single. If you do, you're not taking care of your bike at all. And if you're going to try to ride 1,000, you can't even get 1,000 miles on one application with transmission fluid. Wouldn't even do it. That's one of the best oil-based lubricants in the world. You put that in your transmission, and you don't think about it for 100,000 miles. Okay. Now, I used to make synthetic lubes, and I based them on a transmission fluid. I based them I made that 20 years ago. I made that. And I was using that as my chain lube for these dusty conditions out here for a long time. But it required a lot of maintenance, and I wasn't getting a crazy chain life. I was getting average chain life. And for me, we're talking 700-800 miles of chain was about what I was getting for decades. Like for a decade before I came up with the wax stuff. That was about what my chain life was. And that's really bad. Now, I talked to people who were roadies who have used similar wax products at the time, and they were only getting 700 or 800 miles out of chain as well. Before they felt it was time to change it based on their wear measurements. So, you know, when I set out to solve this problem, it was not to pass a 1,000 mile, or maybe it's kilometers, same day, who cares, okay, in one application. Because even 1,000 kilometers, nobody rides that in one application. No one does, except for one guy I know. Man, what's his name? That'd be Abdullah out there in in Australia. He does 500-mile training rides. He won the race across America. At the time, I wanted to reach out to him to use my product, but it was still in its development. The 5311 was still in its first iterations at the time he won the race across America. And the year before that, he won the race across Australia. And, you know, I sent him jerseys at one time. I sent him some things to promote my product over there. And he did for a while. And then now he's moved on, and 2020 kind of ended all of that for me. But he's probably one of the most talented cyclists I've ever seen when it comes to the endurance part of it. And I wanted him to start using these products at some point, but get his feedback. But you know, that's not the everyday rider. That is an extreme situation, and I don't know of anything that can really hold up to that. Maybe my Uber Clear would do pretty darn good on that. With maybe start off with the Darkmatter and Uber Clear, and just bring a little bottle with you every 500 miles, put some on. But you know, this is not what I'm setting out to. I didn't spend 10 years for that. The product is on the shelf and available because most people ride 10 miles on a mountain bike ride, up to 100 on a road bike ride. You're riding between 10 and 100 miles, and you need a chain lube that will give you a great experience the whole time you're riding those miles. Whether, you know, my average rides are about 15 to 20 miles on a mountain bike, and on a road bike it was about 50. I don't ride road bikes anymore, but when I did, because of the cars, that'd be a whole separate story. But the thing is that my mountain bike rides are usually 10 to 20 miles is typical, and my go-to loop is about 17 miles, and that's about 2.5 hours if I take it easy. And I need a chain lube that can get through that, and maybe multiple days of it without a big hassle and without ever having to strip the chain. Now, it's just, my testing is real world testing, and it compares to hundreds of other people out there. Thousands of other people have a similar criteria for what they need. So, you know, a random person started a business, they call it zero friction. So if you've got a zero friction chain lube, just use that. You know, that's not the goal here. The goal here is to have the best riding experience. As a result, which was like item number 4 or 5 on my list of top 7 things I wanted my chain lube to accomplish, that was to get racing performance, and if I could get extended chain life from what I had been experiencing using dozens of other products, even my own synthetic that I had 20 years ago, that would be great if I could get extended chain life. But, you know, it was really more about the ride. I was so used to replacing chains all the time, that wasn't really the goal yet. It was just to not have to take the chain off, not break the quick link, not go through that procedure of stripping it. I used to use gasoline, you know, that's better for the metal than these degreasers. And I can get into the chemistry of degreasers and why they're not good for your chain, but that's just, you know, opening another can of worms. The thing is that I don't want to use any of that stuff, and I found a way around it. I developed a way around it. I invented alcohol-based chain lube. I invented the prep procedure to take your new chain and convert it over without the chain ever having to see the light of day, as far as being exposed to oxygen or water or degreasers or anything. And as a result, that itself extends your chain life significantly. The fact you're taking a factory chain straight from the factory, putting it on your bike, and it never sees oxygen as a bare metal ever, and never has any solvents locked away inside the rollers that affect your chain lube. You know, there's a lot of things. On that note, when people say they've used the product and the stuff comes off, it's shedding all the contaminants out of your chain. It's doing the work for you. So that first ride, if you didn't clean the chain really well, you're going to see a little buildup squeezing out. It's like the chain lube knows to squeeze all the dirt out and all the contaminants and push them to the surface. And you can knock it off with a wire brush, a little bristle brush is great. And then wipe it down with alcohol and go again. Or you can use more chain prep formula and re-prep the chain at that point too. But just knock the big stuff off with a toothbrush or a fine tooth brass bristle brush is really good for doing that as well. So I'm going to have to start a chain lube vlog series here at this point. But here's the picture I sent to Michael, which he actually put it on the YouTube video. And this is something I wrote down, the top 7 things I wanted to accomplish. So none of the other chain lubes I've seen heavy marketing done for in the last 5 years. I'll say none of these other chain lubes with the heavy marketing since the Sea Otter show 2019, where I became sort of hyper aware of what other people started doing all of a sudden. Like within 6 months, there was already products trying to claim some of the things I was claiming. And I've had a chance to see some of them, and I realized, oh, they're trying to figure out what I'm doing. And I realized, yep, I better keep this really under wraps. But here's the point. My testing had these 7 things in mind, in my development, where the zero friction cycling is just this, does it pass our test of whatever. So number 1 was to stay clean, and with that also quiet. So I was able to accomplish the stay clean part because I knew wax was noisy at the time. This is when I wrote this down. I was still crock pot dipping my chains, you see. And you can see the spatter there all over them from just sitting next to my setup. I stared at it all the time. While I was developing crockpot waxes as well. I mean, I've come up with plenty of formulas for crockpot waxes, and they were all really good. And I did get to the point where they had incredible mileage, but they weren't totally quiet yet. So staying clean and for a liquid lube, drip lube, if you want to call it that. Mine's more of a gel, but stay clean and quiet was number 1. Number 2, which it's number 1 also, was no maintenance. No degreasers, gasoline never needed, never have to take your chain off, which is number 3, no quick link removal, because the more times you undo your quick link, the looser that connection becomes. And then I've lost chains on the trail. I mean, I've lost the quick link on the trail through rock gardens and stuff. Heavy, chunky sections. And there's nothing worse than going to take that pedal when you don't know you lost your chain. And you go to jam on the pedal and there's nothing there. And then you can fly over the bars just doing that. So quick link removal was something I wanted to eliminate from my life as well as the maintenance in step 2 there, or goal number 2 there, okay? So in order to stay clean and quiet without those 2 things, that's where that took a lot of work. And as a result, number 4 was chain life plus. Like, I wanted to get better chain life, at least twice the distance would be great. But if I only got the same chain life, I was still happy that steps 1, 2, and 3 were out of my life. Steps 1, 2, and 3 are the things most people complain about. The whole ritual of the chain. It takes just as long to clean your chain as it does to clean the rest of your bike. So this cuts your bike cleaning in half by eliminating ever having to clean the chain. Now again, my cycling background goes back to when I was 11 years old and I started racing BMX bikes. And I paused for a second because I was going to try to grab some of my early racing licenses. I still have a few of them. And I just saw it recently, but I couldn't find it in a pinch here. But back to this list, you know, so the racing performance was something that was a huge importance for me going way back to when I was 11 years old. By the time I got into 12 expert class, it was really apparent that your bike had to be as friction free as possible. Like, we used to spin our front wheels. Mine would go for about 10 minutes. And back then we were taking all the grease out of our bearings and using like baby oil and maybe a little dab of Vaseline with some baby oil. I was doing that in my bottom bracket bearings, my hub bearings, my pedal bearings, everything that pushed the bike forward. I was taking all the grease out and doing that when I was 12 and 13 years old. Okay, so this is my experience. And what a hassle it is. By the way, on that note, you can add, like, say, the 5311 or the original Lubenschleiden is really good too. You can add that to your bearings. You just open up a seal, squirt some in, have it mix in with the grease. It'll work with the grease, and you'll turn your grease in the bottom bracket, in your hubs, into racing grease, okay? Now, it's going to last a long time if you use it in conjunction with the factory grease that's in there. It'll blend with anything that they're using on the market right now. I've done it to my cross-country bike. I did the bottom brackets, and I've done the pedals, and it's amazing how fast they spin after that. So the racing performance was always in my life since I was 11 years old, okay? And we achieved that with this product. It's probably better than anything else I've used ever. Even better than the crockpot chains that I used to do, okay? And then number 6 and 7 was, you know, wanted a product that was safe for the environment compared to everything else out there, you know? You know, you still have bottle waste and you still have other things, but you're not putting anywhere near the amount of solvents and things back into the environment that you do when you're using sonic cleaners and whatnot. And, you know, and if you have an excuse like, well, I reuse the stuff over and over, that's good. But then number 7 is I wanted the product to be safe to be around and safe to work with, and safe when it's on your bike, safe when, you know, by eliminating the cleaning process, you've eliminated exposure to anything. And I can get into degreasers and why the pH content of them is harmful to the chain, but that would be a little too scientific-y for this vlog. I wanted to just talk about my criteria versus whatever anybody else has for their testing, and why it's apples and oranges, because mine is real world testing on the bike with years and years and years of backups. I have Strava data as well. And, you know, since Strava raised their prices and since Strava changed their business, like personality, I don't know what word to use here. Strava made some major changes a few years ago, and I didn't want to be any part of that company anymore. I felt they were going a direction that I don't want to be part of anymore. And when they raised, I stuck at I paid my fees every month just to hang on to that data. But then they like tripled the price for me. I was grandfathered in at $5 a month. I think it was $5 a month. Might have been $6. And I have a letter from them saying, you're grandfathered in forever. Don't worry. Da, 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 da. And then they raised it to like 15 or something. I was like, you know what? I'm not paying $15 a month for something I don't use anymore. And I don't believe in this company anymore. And I want nothing to do with them ever, ever, ever. I really do not like their business model now. It's something I'm totally against. People that change the deal on you. Listen, when a deal's a deal. And when you change it after you told me you would never change it, you're a liar. And I don't care what your excuse is. When they more than doubled their rates, it was simply to make a bunch of money at our expense. And at the time, I had no income. So it was like, you know what? I'm really not interested in being part of that anymore. And when I say no income, I mean I was relying solely on my chain lube business at the time. So, but our product is safe to use and safe for the environment compared to everything else out there. You know, it's not a zero factor, but it's much less than everything else that I've seen on the market. So that's the top 7 things. I think my product has completely nailed this list for years. That's why I keep it on my desk and look at it every day. And it goes from the desk to the refrigerator and back and forth. Right now it's on the refrigerator again. But I hope people try it and get the experience that we've all gotten that have the years of use. Long-term reviews have all said the same thing, and that's part of my data. The original data that I'm going to release sometime will be in the future after I work some deals out. So, you know, it'll be part of proving that to the people that need to see it. And right now I have writer testimonials, and that's what I think is a better thing to go by than actual lab results from some randomized test, which every test has different parameters, and mine is all real world testing between, you know, under my feet. That's what I did, and other people that did the same thing have had the same results. So I wanted to get into the chain lube wars I see online a little bit more, but it's something I'm trying to stay out of because I can see there's paid trolls or people that are just so passionate about their investment in their gizmos they bought to achieve this wax dipping experience. And it's fine. You know, I can say 2 things. If you use my product and you find it's better, then, you know, that stuff didn't go to waste. You can start making candles with all that equipment. Okay? Maybe I should start selling candle wicks on my website for people that finally abandon the crockpot stuff. You don't have to throw that equipment away. You can make candles with it. And that's what I suggest you do with your old ChainWax formulas. Once you're done with that hassle, just turn it into a candle and call it a day. But I have no interest in partaking in the online chain lube battles with the trolls, because I can see from the different industries I've been in throughout my career as a trade show salesman, and, you know, basically I was a distributor who did trade shows, and in different industries. I'm talking hardware, sporting goods, general merchandise, dollar stores, grocery stores. I've sold to every type of store there is. Big box stores. I've sold to everybody. Car dealerships all across America. I put baseball hats in car dealerships all across America. So anyway, you know, I've done a lot of different things, and I've seen the corporate sabotage that goes on, and I'm very familiar with how it looks now in today's world of the internet and YouTube comments and Facebook comments and things like that. So these trollings are getting very clever. They try to come off more positive now and not so negative, but what they're doing is they're name dropping on your channel. And I'm trying to avoid those type of promotions for products that, quite honestly, I'm getting a lot of feedback through the phone and through emails, and people are telling me that a lot of the crockpot stuff they're doing is noisy, the shifting is terrible, and doesn't get that great a chain life, and it's become a bigger chore than just the old ways. I'm getting multiple people telling me this. So I eliminated all that. Number 2 was no maintenance. There's not another product on the market that can claim that or achieve that, because they're not thinking outside the box like I did when I developed this. They're following the same old rules they learn in chemistry school. And those rules haven't worked for 100 years, and they're never going to work. So I invented alcohol-based chain lube. I invented the method of never having to clean it. I've invented the method of applying it and converting the chain from a factory grease to my product is a technique I developed as well. And everybody is trying to figure it out. It seems they've all fallen short in one way or another. And they cost more. So I don't understand why they're even, but they have huge marketing campaigns. So this is what I'm up against. This is why I get the trolling. And that's the reason for me doing this video. I'm going to try to find a way to publish this. This is for my own purpose, to listen back and get some ideas. And maybe I'll share it around with a few people. All right, guys, I'm going to go. And hopefully I'll get a ride in today. Have a good one.